Hello! As why? All may or may not know, FNAF is a very popular mascot horror game series that was first released back in 2014. However, it is for its lore that this is the case. Its story is really convoluted, which keeps theorists like me interested in it. I do theorize about it for myself, but I don't really make videos on it. But enough about me, let's get to what you want. You read the title, so I don't feel like I need to explain myself. I however am only going to base this off the first 6 games, though I might use elements from other parts. Let's get to the rewrite. In the late 1970s, 2 middle-aged men, William Afton and Henry Emily, created Freddy'S Family Diner, a pizzeria Chuck E. Cheese-like restaurant. Note, Chuck E. Cheese did not exist in this universe. William and Henry commission a man named Edwin Murray to create suits that also function as an animatronic. Edwin made some prototypes that use the locking mechanism to lock the wearer into place. If it was a robot, the springs would go in, but if it was a suit, the springs would go only a bit in to not crush the user. He also made it so the suits would also go into suit mode if something went wrong. Edwin's wife, Fiona, would die in a fire eventually, and he would become very distraught. So distraught that he made a robot that would mimic everything it saw. Edwin got it to mimic Fiona, and it also would take care of Edwin's son, David, for him. David would eventually die due to an unsafe slide Edwin had made for him despite his team telling him it wasn't safe. Edwin would move the mimic program mimicking Fiona into a giant machine, called MXES, in a lab under his company building connecting to his house. William got the employees of Edwin's company's contact info by bribing other employees with the ability to manage a new restaurant. This went on until Edwin's business went bankrupt and William took all of his stuff, including the spring locks. William cut Edwin off and lied to Henry that he just wasn't doing good enough. William also stole the land, giving him access to Edwin's lab. He turned Edwin's house into his and moved his family in. William had 3 kids, a daughter named Elizabeth, who was the youngest, and 2 sons. His first son was Michael, and then he had another son, whose name is unknown, but he is commonly known as the Crying Child due to his nature in the games, so that's what I will call him. Henry would eventually finish the new suit animatronic hybrid, which he dubbed the Spring Lock suit. However, his version made it so the suit would automatically go into robot mode if it glitched, instead of suit mode to not ruin the experience for the kids. The 2 animatronics that resided at Freddy'S were Freddy'S, a yellow bear animatronic with a purple hat and body, and Spring Bonnie, a yellow rabbit animatronic with 2 buttons on their chest. An employee would be asked to test the spring lock suits, however the suit would fail, going into robot mode and crushing the employee alive, turning them into a bloody corpse inside the suit. Luckily Henry had made multiple, and William had somehow managed to convince Henry it was no big deal. When in Henry's heart he knew this couldn't just be swept under the rug. But then William would threaten him that if he tried telling anybody, he would cut him off completely and act like he made everything. Henry, unknowing of what to do and intimidated by William, would unwillingly choose to not tell anybody. William would brush it off that the employee was going on vacation and that he been fired. Henry and William would open a new pizzeria called Freddy'S Pizza Place with 4 animatronics, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Henry would become invested in his work, causing him to create an animatronic called the Puppet. The Puppet would make sure no kids without parental permission would leave the building, so his daughter, Charlotte, would not be able to leave Freddy's without Henry there himself. One day, William would find Charlotte trapped outside because some bullies put boxes on the box the puppet resided in, trapping it inside. William was always a cold maniac. He always wanted to do horrible things. That night he was drunk, and he murdered Charlotte before driving off. The puppet eventually broke out and found Charlotte's dead body before her soul attached itself to the puppet, causing it to gain purple tears and changing its pupils from green to white. William had felt good doing it, and he realized he loved it. He wasn't Just a maniac, he was a cold-hearted child murderer. Meanwhile, Henry would find Charlotte's body and hold a funeral. Henry, having a feeling William was involved, cut him out of the brand. William was banned from every Freddy's restaurant, however his kids and wife were in. He explained to his family that he was taking a break for a while from working on Freddy's. William would design a new pizzeria alone, called Circus Baby's Party World. The animatronics were Circus Baby, Laura, Funtime Freddy, and Funtime Foxy. They were also all designed with features to lure and kidnap children so William could experiment on souls of the youth. He would use a lab Edwin had under his house to conduct experiments on the animatronics. However, because of this, he couldn't spend time with his kids. Eventually William's wife would find out what he did, and before she could divorce him, he killed her and said she was going to be alone for a while. He would bring her body down into the lab to make sure no one would find her. William's daughter, Elizabeth, would beg him to let her play with Circus Baby. However, he would always say no due to caring about her and not wanting her to end up dead inside of Circus Baby because of how he programmed her. But one day, when he wasn't looking, she disobeyed and would be grabbed by a massive claw and shoved into Circus Baby. William would close the restaurant and blame it on gas leaks. William's other son, the crying child, witnessed this however, and became horrified by animatronics, though he wasn't scared of the characters themselves. His older brother, Michael, would cope with his mother's disappearance by bullying his younger brother, but one day he would take it too far accidentally. He would put him into Freddy's mouth at Freddy's family diner, and Freddy would crush him. Michael didn't realize this would happen. People would have this the night of 83 due to it being in 1983, and the crying child would die later that week in the emergency room. Michael would be abused by William because of this, and would have severe nightmares of horrifying versions of the animatronics at Freddy's. Freddy's would be closed soon after the night, and also because during the week an employee had been killed while wearing the spring body suit due to a malfunction. William would eventually notice Circus Baby's eyes had changed from sea blue to emerald green, the color of his daughter's eyes. William also noticed she acted like her and seemed to recognize him. William would need to find a way to test his theory, and eventually would take on a fake identity and get hired at Freddy's. And when no one was looking, he sneaked into a back room where the old Freddy and spring body suit were kept. He would put on the spring body suit and begin luring 5 children into the back room. He would then kill them all, and later stuff their bodies into the suits during the night. William was convicted after Henry knew it was him on the cameras, but there were no bodies, causing him to be let go despite the authorities being suspicious of him. Eventually, due to odor from the animatronics, Freddy's would be shut down. A new Freddy's would be opened featuring cuter versions of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, and a puppet would be brought back. William would instruct his son, Michael, to work the night shift to tamper with the animatronics to get the place shut down. However, the animatronics would mistake him for William due to them being hooked up to a criminal database, so Michael would have to deal with them trying to get into his office. Also, William would murder 5 more kids. Around this time, the night of 87 happened, where an employee had been bitten in the frontal lobe by the previous model of Freddy who was supposed to be sitting in the back room, because he mistook for William. The place would be closed. A new Freddy's with less budget would be opened by Henry in a desperate attempt to bring back Freddy's. However, it was no use. Michael would once again be instructed to work there and tamper with the animatronics, but while there the animatronics would attack him. There, Michael would also encounter the old Freddy suit, who would be possessed by both his younger brother who forgave him and tried to help him, and also the 5th child William, lured in the first Freddy, trying to attack him due to Michael being related to their killer. William would go there and dismantle all of the animatronics to experiment on them. However, William would eventually be cornered by the souls of the children he killed. He would put on the spring body suit, but then it would malfunction, crushing and killing him. Henry would find William eventually and seal off the room. The place would be closed. Michael would one day accidentally discover a hidden elevator in his house, leading to the lab under his house. He had never known of this, and would eventually find Circus Baby and discover she was possessed by his younger sister. Michael would find blueprints showing the animatronics were designed to capture and kill children. All of the animatronics would scoop themselves using the scooper, a machine designed to break open the animatronics to obtain the child inside of it when it catches one. They would then form an amalgamation, and Circus Baby would convince him to go to the scoopering room. He would then be scooped, and the amalgamation would climb inside of him and wear him. However, the scooper injected him with remnant of life, a source that would give you endless life, however would be destroyed with fire. Michael would eventually throw up the creature into the sewers. The other animatronics would eject Circus Baby's parts due to them not wanting her to treat them like her pawns anymore. Michael would vow to find his father and kill him for his wrongdoings after finding out he made the robots to kill children. 30 years later, Michael would be hired at an attraction run by a random man called Freddy's Fright. Based on the mysterious legends of Freddy's, Michael would find a rotten spring bonnie here and discover it was his father, William, getting only a penny of what he truly deserves. Michael would burn the building down and escape. However, William would escape too. Remnant was also what kept William alive, as he had injected himself with it when he originally killed the 5 kids in the original Freddy's. Sometime after this, the puppet would be found by a prototype version of Funtime Freddy named Lefty, who was the first of the Funtime breed. Lefty would open its chest cavity and shove the puppet into it, and begin carrying it. An anonymous person would offer Michael the job at a new Freddy's, and wanting to put rest to the souls of the kids William has killed, he said yes. Henry would pull out a device he had been keeping on to for years, a control for William's animatronics. He got it from ransacking William's lab. He would hover his finger over the "Come to this location" button on the controller and hesitate, before remembering all of the times he spent with his daughter and wife. Crying, Henry would press it. Circus Baby's rebuilt body would wake up. The amalgamation would wake up, Lefty would wake up, and then William Afton himself would wake up. They would all go to the location, and Michael would be cornered, only for Henry to come on the intercom and reveal that they are not there to receive a gift, and that they are in a maze with no prize. He burns down the building while pressing an emergency button to seal all of the exits to the room Michael and the animatronics are in. They would all die, and no one would